Docubloggers is about community engagement.
It's a television show.
It's a website.
It's a multimedia revolution chronicling life in Central Texas.
So, go home and
Share your story. Submit a docublog by September 22nd and get a free t-shirt. All eligible entries will also compete for the grand prize.
Log on to klru.org/docubloggers for more details.
Every kid grows up, at least for some brief window of time, thinking that they want to grow up to be an astronaut or grow up and travel into space. So I don't think I was unusual in that way. With a father who is an astronaut, I believe that that drive or that belief that it's possible clearly goes deeper than it might for other kids. But for me, there was a very pivotal moment that I remember very distinctly when I was at the NASA clinic. The optometrist was checking out my eyes, and my eyesight was quite poor when I was a kid. And the optometrist came to me and said, "Hey, Richard, I'm really sorry, but because of your poor eyesight, you will never be selected as an astronaut." And while for most kids that might, kind of dash your hopes and make you put away the dream, for me it actually did quite the opposite. In this case, I remember quite distinctly going, well, heck, if NASA's not going to take me, then that just means I have to find my own way into space. So on October 12th, which is Columbus Day here in 2008, I'm going to launch on a Soyuz, Russian Soyuz rocket out of Kazakhstan and spend about 10 days in space, including 8 of those days on the International Space Station, before I return to very close to the launch site in the remote parts of Kazakhstan. And when I fly, I'm going to become the 6th private civilian to have basically purchased their own journey into space. And I'll also become the first second-generation American to fly in space, and I'll be flying with the first second-generation Russian. And so we actually return from space together, so it's kind of an interesting way kind of shepherding in the second generation of space travel. Right now, most everyone who flies to space is part of a government expedition. Those expeditions are not doing commercial activity. They're doing fundamental research, but they're not actually pursuing, what kind of business can we do in space? How can we make sure that space literally pays for itself? The answer to that question is essential in order to keep the activities in space really growing in the way that I think they should. And so what I'm doing in space is I'm doing a number of experiments and activities that I believe demonstrate that private individuals and therefore also corporations can participate in space and do it as a business. Paying for my own way into space, so to speak, I think this will be my first and last. However, if I'm successful in demonstrating that space is worthwhile from an economic standpoint to participate in, which I believe it is, then I think there's actually pretty good odds that I will get the chance to fly again, but the second time it won't be on my own dime, so to speak. It will be because I have successfully managed to engineer a business that makes it therefore practical, frankly, not just for me to go to space, but for individuals and companies to mount their own expeditions to space and fly their own astronauts. It would be impossible for me to go to space having just launched a space-related game and not find a way to tie those two things together. I will be actually connecting to the players and the community of players within my game. Not only will I be messaging to them from space directly into the game itself, but we also have a really fun thing planned called Operation Immortality. And what that is I'm going to actually be taking to space with me up to the ISS, something you might consider most closely related to a time capsule. where we'll be taking real people who play Tabula Rasa, something about them in the real world and something about their characters within the game Tabula Rasa. We're going to be accumulating on a data file for me to take to space. In Tabula Rasa, the opening sequence of the game involves the virtual devastation of the surface of the Earth, and so therefore humanity is truly at risk in the storyline of Tabula Rasa. And so by taking this data with me to space, I am therefore saving it from the potential annihilation here on the surface of the Earth. Most everyone who's traveled to space describes how that experience has in some way changed their perspective on life. The fact that you clearly see the Earth with no borders between countries, and how all of the petty little squabbles that us Earthlings have across where these virtual lines in the sand are between us is an irrelevant activity at some grand scale. It'll be interesting to see if that is true for me, and we'll have to talk about that when I get back. My father had told me that on his time on Skylab how he thought the food was actually quite good and enjoyed it just fine. I've recently finished my taste testing pass and menu construction, and I have to tell you, compared to fine dining here on the Earth, the food on space, while clearly satisfactory, is far from inspirational.
What is a docublogger? A docublogger is a creative individual that not only enjoys watching stories about their community, they enjoy telling them as well. Whether they're sharing their opinions through a blog or grabbing a camera and documenting a story as it unfolds, docubloggers can find a home at klru.org/docubloggers. We invite you to join us in creating and enjoying stories about life in Central Texas.
Where am I? I'm at the Blood Center of Central Texas in Austin, Texas, and just donated a pint of blood. I found out about all this through Twitter. This is the first inaugural blood drive tweet up. I'll get it. I'm a little woozy right now. First time donating blood.
Hi, this is Nicolette. I work at the Blood Center of Central Texas in Austin, and I'm on the marketing team. And the marketing team encourages people to donate blood and save lives. We do that in a variety of ways through press releases, communications, advertisements, and promotional events.
And what's going on out in your lobby today?
We're having a tweet up, which is the first I've ever heard of it, but it's wonderful.
Well, so a tweet up is basically a group of people that are on Twitter, get to know each other, and basically somebody says, hey, we're going to have a tweet up at a certain location.
Twitter is a microblogging service, and it allows you to text message link blog to other people you've connected with online.
Well, it's just magic. That's what it is. It's just magic.
You have 140 characters to express whatever thought, emotion, location. The question box above your little Twitter says, what are you doing now?
I came down here to give blood and donate a little bit of life to someone else.
Well, today is the brainchild of Michelle Greer with David Neff and a bunch of others. The Austin Social Media Club, of which I'm a co-founder, 501 Tech, and a bunch of really good people who know each other from Twitter.
This was the first time I'd seen somebody organize a community project, social media for social good. I thought it was so cool. I had to be a part of it. I got over my fear of donating blood and came down here with a bunch of other cool folks.
It's a lot more tangible than just actually sitting at the computer and just surfing around the web and all of that.
Exactly. It's getting something done in the real world, which I think we need a lot more of.
It was really neat to combine two things that I wanted to do, give blood, and then also meet the folks that I'm communicating with online.
The Blood Center of Central Texas was founded in 1951, so we've been in this area for 57 years. And it started out just serving some local hospitals in Austin. I think there were 2 or 3, and then some rural sort of clinics. Well, today we serve 10 Central Texas counties, 34 hospitals, and we're responsible for over 1 million people and the blood supply for that community. This year we're going to need to collect over 60,000 blood donations in order to just meet patient need here in Central Texas. I think an average day we can collect here at the Austin Center between 40 and 50 blood donations. It looks like today we're already on page 10. That means over 100 people have come in, and so that's an outstanding response to this for the tweet up. That's outrageous.
You know it's very effective because I hate needles and I did it anyway, so if I can do it, so can you.
Hey, this is Richard Garriott, and you're watching Docubloggers.
In a nutshell, the organ, as it passed through centuries and countries, picked up sounds along the way. And the precursors were the Chang in China and the panpipes of Greece. That goes back thousands of years. It was used for Christian purposes only in the 10th or the 11th centuries. But oddly enough, the very first organist recorded to have played a religious service was in the 3rd century. He played to wake up Dionysus. This project went through 5 music department chairmen and 3 deans. The builder was chosen, Pete Visser, and then from there it was just making adjustments to the concept.
There was about, I would say, about eight and a half months of design work. Now we had a team of about 30 people that actually, cabinet makers, woodworkers, metal workers, and apprentices that helped us make the organ, that made parts of it. I did all the design work, all the drawings, all the engineering, all the pipe dimensions, everything. I was told by Frank Speller, look, this is what I want. I don't think it's possible, but this is what I want. And I want to be able to play Bach, but I also want to play Tournemire, and I want to play Reger, and I want to play the Renaissance, all the way into the avant-garde. And that's a tall order. Most organ builders said, you can't do that. But you can do an organ that can do everything very well. And I said to Dr. Speller that I can do it. He had enough trust in me that he said, okay, let's come up with something.
Well, this is the 25th anniversary of the instrument. It's essentially a Baroque organ. It has over 5,000 pipes. It has 97 ranks or rows of pipes. And it has 67 stops. It is true to its model, which is late Renaissance, early Baroque, North German, North Dutch, and it does all with such beauty. I've played recitals, amongst other places, at Notre Dame, Paris, and Westminster Abbey, London, and I can assure you this instrument will play circles around them. It's one of the best instruments in the world. It's the largest organ in Texas, and when it was put in, it was the largest tracker organ in the country.
A tracker organ is the better term for a tracker organ. It's a mechanical organ. It's an organ that is mechanically operated. The key actually opens the valve to the organ pipe. This gives the organist a little bit of control, like a flutist has the control on a flute by the amount of air they blow across the aperture.
Let me show you something interesting. This is the low A on a piano. Then it goes down to a low C. 16 vibrations per second. Sounds like the wrong end of a buffalo.
Organ design is a work between scientific and artistic, as well as mechanical, structural balances. So the organ has to be able to hold itself up. This one weighs around 35 tons or so. Then the organ had to be playable. Mechanically, the organist had to be able to do fast trills on the keys, like you do in a piano. But then the organ case also has to look like a sculpture. So we make it look pretty, make it look attractive. And it was said early on when the organ first was installed, this was the most dangerous thing on campus, because people would come in at the top of the hall out there. They wouldn't see the first step because they were so in awe of what they saw that they tripped over that first step. And that happened many times. It still does to some people when they see it the first time. But I've sit in the audience over here and listen to the organ, and I've heard people say, well, when I go to heaven, that's the kind of organ I want there. And I hope that that shows like this would help us further the arts and the people's understanding that it doesn't all work with transistors and diodes and resistors, but it works by things that real people make with their hands. After it's all done, it becomes a work of art.
The first step to becoming a Docublogger is logging onto our website at klru.org/docubloggers.
Exchange your insights and opinions with your community on our blog, watch stories from our broadcasts, view web-only extras, and even add your own docublogs. Find all this and more at klru.org/docubloggers.
It's not typical dance music or electronic music. It's sort of, in my mind or to my ears, it's a combination of the electronic sounds, but also genuine melodic music. Ghostland Observatory, I think, better than anybody else, represents Austin music today. They're young. They're not afraid to experiment with different sounds and different combinations. And they also represent new music today, period, not just in Austin. They're doing things their own way. This is kind of a radical departure from the way the music business or music industry have operated in the past. They release their own records, they manage their own business, their own careers, and they make their own decisions.
We didn't really focus on where it was going to go. We were more going from just the love that we had for creating Ghostland Observatory, and it naturally spawned off and took off for itself, you know.
We really try to make music that you're not going to hear every day, or you're not going to hear on the radio, or you're not going to hear at every club in town. There's no like crazy marketing schemes. People have to go to our shows to see what it is, or a friend has to tell them about it. So in a way, I guess it still is underground.
Comparatively, there aren't a lot of electronic or dance bands or artists in Texas as there are in other places.
What turns me on is like the new jam, you know, like something that's fresh, something that's new. It's just hours of figuring it out, you know, like on your own, basically. You know, analog sine waves are creating sounds, and combined with the sequencer.
stage presence as the singer, the quality of the songs, and then just their live presentation, their live performance are the three things that I think stood out the most to me.
I've always loved the stage and always wanted to perform and stuff like that. And I think Thomas really helped me to really go after everything, when I got on stage and just lose it all, because I think, he saw something in me I didn't see at the time. I was born in San Saba, Texas. So, we had a farm, shoot guns and fish and, run and play like a crazy small town kid would. It was a great town, and my mom worked at a Western wear store, Harry's department store in San Saba, Texas, which sells boots and pearl snap shirts and everything, So I spent a lot of my time running around there. But I always had a knack for entertaining, I always loved making my friends laugh. If you probably ask any of my friends I grew up with, they probably think I was going to be a comedian when I got older. Because, I'd always make them laugh, and I loved entertaining. I always loved being on stage in front of them. I moved to Austin after graduating high school. And I just knew what I wanted to come do. I wanted to play music, so Austin was the closest and best thing to come play music by. But the country is always with me, that's my home. And I always go back to home. I always go back to San Saba, to the country, the farm, to when I need to regather myself, get my spirit back together.
I was born in Fort Stockton, Texas, and I lived there until I was 7. Then I moved to Dallas in high school. Then I moved back to Fort Stockton. That's where I grew up. That's what I always considered home. Yeah, I'm really attached. I think it's a beautiful place. It's a really wide open. Just reminds me of the Old West.
You'd never expect them to do the kind of music that they do, having grown up in a small town in West Texas.
This one time I had shot this armadillo, right? And it started crying, it started squealing. And it tore me to pieces. And from that moment, it was such a moment of sadness that came over me. And I think that's really stuck with me. And I was out in a field, I was out in the country, I was out in the middle of nowhere, and with this thing, this death, this energy, that came over me, and it was like this reality. I think that energy, that spirit, or whatever it is inside of me. And I feel the same when I perform sometimes, but that energy, that heaviness.
Their music is new in the sense that they've taken different elements and different styles and kind of combined them in a way that maybe nobody else has done yet. But it's not like anything anybody else is doing.
We just try to let it be as natural as possible and don't force any other thing into the music.
What you're hearing is the connection, is the frequency of the connection between Thomas and I.
A docublog is a video that tells a story about a person, place, event, or anything else in your community.
It can be funny, serious, concrete, or avant-garde. We encourage you to go out there and share your story with your neighbors. Go to klru.org/docubloggers to find out how. Become a docublogger. Log on to docubloggers.org to share your opinions and story ideas, or get out your camera and create your own docublog.